Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Blender tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can add a high score screen into your game in Blender. Now, quick note, I am using Blender version 2.72. If you're using a version later or earlier, the setup of Blender might be a little bit different, but the general concept of the tutorial should still work. Okay, so before we get started, we're going to take a look at what we're going to have at the end of this tutorial. So I just have this cube here in the middle of the scene. This is representing my game scene. So whenever I play the game by hitting P on the keyboard, you can see up in the top left I have the score property. Right now it is at 0. And if I hit the spacebar, that score goes up by 1. So now I have a score of 10. If I hit the S key, I am taken to this high score screen, which shows 3 different scores, all in order of which one's greatest, sorted from greatest to least. And then we have a press backspace to return to game. You hit that, and we get back to our game. And these high scores are saved out to a file, so if I hit the S key without adding anything to my score, I'm taken back to the same high score screen, and you can see the same 3 scores there. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you can make this for yourself. Okay, so here we are in a brand new blend file, and one thing that you're going to need for this tutorial is a script which you can download following a link in the description. But before we get to that, we're going to switch from Blender Render to Blender Game in the top center. And let's go ahead and enable the debug properties right away. So go to Game and Show Debug Properties. We're then going to split this 3D window into 2 windows. The second one will make a text editor. And then we're going to hit the open, and we're going to navigate to that file that you downloaded, the script. I have it saved here on my desktop. It's called HighScore.py. Go ahead and click Open Text Block. Okay, so once we have our text file open, I'm going to go ahead and enable the syntax highlighting as well as the line numbers. And then I'm going to go to Text and Make Internal. And what that will do is that will make it so that whenever we modify this script, it saves it along with the blend file, so we don't have to worry about saving the script file outside of Blender. Okay, I'm going to stretch up the bottom window a little bit and turn that into a logic editor. And then we're going to add some basic logic to this cube in order to get it to add the score. So I'm going to add a keyboard sensor. That's going to be a spacebar sensor, of course. However you want to add the score, you can do that. It's going to depend on your game. Then going to add a AND controller, wire that sensor straight over. And then we're going to add a property actuator. So going to the properties window here, I'm going to add a new game property. Let me fix the window there. I'm going to add a new game property, and this game property is going to be named whatever score name is in our script. So you see at the top of the script here, we've got a couple of variables. One of them is score list, the other is score name. Score name is the name of the property that holds the score. You can name this whatever you want. So for instance, I might change this to my score or something like that. But this has to be what the property is named that holds your score. So back down on the object, this would need to be named my score in order to work. And this can be a float or an integer. That's just going to depend on how you want to hold your score. So then our property actuator, we're going to have set to add mode. We're going to add the property my score, and we're going to add a value of 1. So if we play the game after I check mark the debug property, if I play the game and hit spacebar, we can see that the score is being added. So now we're going to add the part that actually saves the score. So this should be either a save station or whenever the player finishes the level, something like that. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to add another keyboard sensor, and I'm going to set the key to S. I'm then going to add a Python controller, and I'm going to set this Python controller into module mode, and then in the field here, text field, I'm going to type in HighScore.SaveScore. The capitalization should be exactly like that. Go ahead and hit enter. We're then going to add a AND controller and a scene actuator. The scene actuator is going to switch us to our high score scene. So we're going to do set scene, and then we'll need to add our high score scene. So let's go ahead and do that now. Up in the top, kind of off to the left of center, we see our scene here, and we should actually give this a name. Let's go ahead and name this scene game. And now we'll add a new one, and we'll name this scene high score. You can name it whatever you want. It's just that this is going to be the high score screen, so it makes sense to name it high score. So we're then going to add a camera because we can't see without a camera, and then hit Alt-R to clear the rotation of the camera, and we'll drag it up a little bit so that it's above the grid. We're then going to switch to the camera view by hitting 0 on the number pad. And we're going to add some text. So I'm going to hit Shift A, add some text. And I'm going to use this as the title of the high score screen. So high scores. And you can then position your camera around wherever you want. You can grab it by hitting G. If you hold down the center mouse wheel, you'll basically zoom in and out with the camera. And then we're going to go ahead and hit G to move this high scores text around. Top and center is fine. So then we're going to add some text that will represent one of our 3 scores. So we're going to hit Shift A, add text, and I'm going to punch in just some numbers for now for that, so we can just kind of see. Yeah, that might be what it looks like. We're then going to have to hit add text game property in order to use this later. So then we're going to select the title, and this is where we're going to hold the logic for the high score screen. And what we're going to do is add an always sensor. We're then going to add 2 Python controllers and wire them both into that always sensor. Both of these Python controllers are going to be in module mode. And then we're going to check mark the execution priority button on the first one. So that means that this controller will definitely run before the second one. So in the first one, we're going to type in HighScore dot load from file, and this is going to load the high scores from the text file that we save out. In the second one, we're going to put in HighScore dot load score. And this is going to load the score that we got from the player. So this is the last score, the score that the player just got. Okay, So then we need to add some more properties to the HighScore. So one of the things we need is we need the name of a property that has the same name as the score name. So again, it's going to be my score, or whatever you put in the text file here. So for our example, we're going to name this property my score, and that is going to be an integer or a float. For the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to be working with integers. We're then, I just realized that in the script, it's the S in score is not capitalized, so capitalization is important. Make sure that's the same. Go ahead and add another game property. And we're going to actually add 3 more game properties. We can add more, but so what we're going to do is we're going to name those other 3 properties the same names as what is in the list, score list. So if you wanted to store more scores, what you would do is you would add a comma, add a quotation mark or an apostrophe, and then type in the name of a property that you want to store the next score. So for example, we would do something like score 4, and then add another apostrophe. So at that point, then this would save 4 scores instead of just 3. But for this tutorial, we're just going to do 3. So we need to add 3 properties, one of them named score 1, one of them named score 2, and one of them named score 3. So let's go ahead and do that. Add a game property. This one will be score 1. The next one will be score 2. And the next one will be score 3. And again, these can either be floats or integers, but for this tutorial, we're going to be working with just integers. And let's go ahead and turn on the debug for all of those properties so we can see what they're doing later. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select our first score, so this number here, and we're going to add the logic that's going to copy the score from the title. So we're going to go ahead and add a delay sensor. The delay doesn't need to be very high. I'm going to put it at 5. You could probably get away with doing something lower though. We're then going to add a AND controller and then a property actuator. And what we're going to do with this property actuator is we're going to set it to copy mode, and then we're going to have it copy to the property text from the object text. From the object text, we should actually rename that. That's the name of the title object. And we're going to copy the property score 1. So what this is going to do is it's going to take the score 1 property from our HighScore title, and it's going to copy that over to the text property of our score. So then we're going to hit Shift D to duplicate this object, and I'm just going to move it down a little bit, and Shift D again, and move it down a little bit further. So in the middle score, this is going to be our second score, so we're going to change the property actuator to copy score 2 instead of score 1. And then on the third one, we're going to get it to copy score 3 instead of score 2. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is we need to be able to save the 3 scores out to the file again after we're done. So I'm going to add a little text prompt. So I'm going to add some text, and I'm going to put in here press backspace to return to game. And again, you can have this whatever you want. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. You could have a button that you click. You could have it as a button on the joystick or anything. But this here is just a text prompt to tell the player what to do. So back on the title, our HighScore title, we're going to add a keyboard sensor, because this is what we're going to use to leave the level, but you would use whatever sensor you want. So I'm going to put in backspace, and then I'm going to attach a Python controller, set it to module mode, and then in the text field I'm going to put in HighScore.save to file. Again, make sure to get that capitalization exactly the same. And then we're going to add a AND controller and a scene actuator. The scene actuator is just going to set scene and set it back to game. Okay, so next we're going to go back to our main game scene, and we should be ready to run. Actually, first we need to set this set scene actuator to go to the high score screen. Okay, so we can put our mouse cursor over the 3D window, hit shift space to go to full screen, and then hit P to play the game. We see the property in the top left. If we hit spacebar, it adds to it. If we hit the S key, we are taken to the high score screen, and we see that our top score is 9. Hit backspace to return to the game, and we can hit the spacebar a few more times. Hit the S key to go to the high score screen, and we see that it is 14 and 9. Now, you may have realized that your blend file probably didn't work, and that's because it doesn't have a text file to save to. So we're going to go ahead and add that now. So if we hit shift space, we get back out of full screen, and what we need to do is we need to make a file that is at this path with this file name. So in order for this to work, we first need to save our blend file. So let's do a save as. I have a game folder on my desktop and a blend file in here called My Lovely Game. I'm just going to save over that. And if I minimize Blender, here's the desktop, and you see here's my game folder. If I go in here, I have my blend file, a autosave blend file, and then I have HighScores.txt. I'm going to delete that. So your game folder would probably look something like this. So what we need to do is right click and add a text document, and this needs to be named exactly the same as what's named here. So you can see I have HighScore.txt with a capital H. So my text document, if I rename it, is going to have to be HighScore.txt. Okay, so what if I want to have that text document in a folder? Well, then I'm going to need to type it in here. So let's say I want to put this game in a folder called My Folder. I just simply type in here My Folder and then add another slash. So then that means it's going to look for a file in a folder. So I would need folder, My Folder, and then I would need to move that text document into that folder. Okay, so now it should be saving the score. So if we hit play, add spacebar a few times, hit S key to go to the high score screen, we see now the high score screen is refreshed. That's because I deleted my text document. Hit backspace to return to the game. Let's do space a few times, hit S, and there we've got 14 and 5 and 0. Okay, so that is really all there is to it. Like I said, you can add more scores if you want to store more of them, and so you just add them into this list, and you would add more properties to your title or whatever object is holding your logic in the high score screen, and then you'll get more scores. So actually, you know what? I'm going to go over that real quick. So this works with 3 scores, but let's say I want to add 2 more score slots. So let's say I want to have five score slots. So I'm going to simply duplicate this bottom score 2 more times. The spacing is really off on those. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm going to select my title. I'm going to add 2 new game properties. The first one of which is going to be score 4. Oh, the keyboard's in the way. There. The second one is going to be called score 5. These are both going to be integers. Let's go ahead and turn on the debug for those. And then in our game list up here, I'm going to put in comma, apostrophe, score 4, because that's the name of the first property I added, comma, apostrophe, score 5, apostrophe. And that's the name of the second property that I added. So now I'm going to select the 4th score. I'm going to change the property actuator to copy the score 5 property, or 4 property, sorry. And the last score, I'm going to have copy the score 5 property. So now if we play the game, we hit space a few times, hit S. Now we've got 5 score slots. We can hit backspace to return to the game. We can add a few more scores in there. And there we go. So now we've got a high score screen with 5 different score slots. Okay, and just one last thing. In case this isn't working, I want to show you how you can help everybody else help you. So what you're going to do is go to Window and hit Toggle System Console. That'll bring up what looks like a little command console here. And we can see from here it will give us errors, like I got one here. I'm actually going to change the script a little bit before I upload it, but it will work the same. But if your file isn't working, open the console, and if you see any errors in here, that's what you need to tell anybody else if you want to get a solution to your problem. So if you want to ask in the comments, hey, this file isn't working for some reason, open this window and tell me or tell other people in the comments what this console is saying. It will help a whole bunch, and it will make everybody's lives much easier. Alright, so that's going to be it for today. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, you can leave that in the link in the description. Other than that, that's going to be it. So, again, thank you guys very much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.